What's up, guys? It's Rax here. So, one of my favorite games from back in the 90s was Disney's Aladdin. I used to love Disney games when I was younger, and one of my favorites by far was Aladdin. So, I got a copy for the Sega Genesis here, and I got a copy for the Super Nintendo. Depending on what console you got this on, you may have had a different experience. So let's play both of these and compare them and see what made them different.
Okay, let's start with the Super Nintendo version. This game came out in 1993 and was developed by Capcom. It was designed by Shinji Mikami, who you might recognize from his work on Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, Vanquish, and most recently The Evil Within. I know what you're thinking, this guy worked on a Disney game? I was pretty surprised myself when I found out he was the designer, but anyway. In this version of the game, Aladdin makes his way through levels defeating enemies by throwing apples at them, jumping on them, or the occasional swinging kick, which I find myself to be pretty satisfying. Enemies will try to take you out in many different ways. The most common enemies you see are sword-wielding guards or archer guards, but depending on the level, you'll encounter a variety of enemy types. There are also a couple of levels where you get to take control of Aladdin's flying carpet, such as the Escape from the Cave of Wonders and the Whole New World bonus stage. It's so beautiful! If you get hit by an enemy, you can regain your health by collecting different food items scattered throughout the levels, like a loaf of bread or what looks like a roasted chicken? As you go through each level, you will collect gems. If you collect enough of these gems, you will increase your life meter and gain points as well. There are treasure chests in each level, and some of them have a flying scarab that will pop out. If you're quick enough to catch the scarab, there will be a bonus at the end of the stage where you spin Genie's prize wheel for a chance to win items such as health upgrades, extra lives, or continues. The game is relatively short, and there are only 3 boss battles, but it's still a ton of fun. You can easily make your way through this game in under an hour. Alright, so let's talk about the Sega Genesis version now. This game was also released in 1993, but made by Virgin Games instead. Right from the start, you'll notice that this game has better animation than the Super Nintendo version, and even the music seems to be better. The Sega version has a difficulty setting, but doesn't have the passwords at the end of the stages like the Super Nintendo version did to pick up where you left off, so I hope you don't mind starting from the beginning. The level locations are very similar to the Super Nintendo version, but they play very differently. In this version, Aladdin still can throw apples, but wields a sword instead of jumping on enemies. The levels are a bit more complex than the Super Nintendo version, and you sometimes have to gather items in order to complete the levels, such as scarab pieces or flutes. You can collect gems in this game as well, but they're used differently than the Super Nintendo version. On the Sega version, you use gems to purchase items such as extra lives or continues from the street vendor you might recognize from the beginning of the movie. As you make your way through the levels, you'll find genie icons that will take you to a bonus minigame at the end of the stage that's almost like a slot machine. You use gems to keep rolling, but if you land on Jafar, you're done. And I always land on Jafar! Damn it! Whatever. Anyway, if you find an Abu icon in the level, you get to play a bonus stage where you control Abu with a sword and avoid falling objects while trying to collect the bonus items. So, to sum it up, the Sega version of the game seems to be geared towards players who enjoy more of a challenge, as where the Super Nintendo version is geared towards people who may just want a simple point A to point B platformer, which is great for younger players. Even Shinji Mikami said had he not developed the Super Nintendo version of the game, he would have bought the Sega Genesis version. There's still a few things I left for you guys to find out on your own, such as character cameos from other movies hidden throughout the levels, and other features as well. So, if you've never played these games, I highly recommend them, especially if you enjoy older platformers. The game is relatively cheap on both systems, so head out to your local retro gaming stores and see if you can find a copy. If you don't have a store near you, then eBay should have you covered. Thank you all for watching this video, and if you want to check out more of my content, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you on the next video.